Good afternoon, viewers. Today on Unsung Heroes SA, we have Janet Josephs, World Athletic Champion, Olympic Champion, South African Olympic Champion. And she's an all-rounder. She does long jump, javelin, and she's a super great rugby player. She has made the 7's ladies rugby team, South African team, and I'll leave her to tell the story. Good afternoon, Janice.
Good afternoon.
Tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you came from, your mom and dad, who they are, and just tell us your story, where it sounds so incredible.
I was born in Retreat. I grew up with my parents, my father, Michael, and mother, Farida. Father's a Tswana, my mother's a Muslim. It was easy for me to stay in the other countries, off season, because our president, Leonard Tweni, would always fly the top 3 in South Africa, or the guys that made the world team, or the squad. The squads would always live in other countries closer to where we're going to compete. Maybe the world champs in Berlin. He would set us up in a camp in Germany, so we can climatize and get used to the atmosphere of how it is to compete there. Sometimes the weather's hot, sometimes cold, so we had to get used to it. So that is why it was easy for me to pack my bags about 20 years ago, leave my parents' house, so that I can set myself up in Stellenbosch first, where I competed for Marties. And then after that, I moved to Poland, where I competed for correctional service. After that, I made my last African team to compete for Berlin. For South Africa, left for Berlin, and that is when Caster Semenya was my roommate. After that, when the Caster Semenya story came out, we lost a lot of sponsorships, and that gave us no choice but for us to retire, because there was no income. Lots of our monies was then lost and everything, as athletics was a job for me. So after that, I went over to rugby.
Janice, just before you go on, and I hear you talking about Caster Semenya, you also mentioned that you went through a similar experience, and a lot, like you said, a lot of the sponsorships are based on what you can do, what you can offer them, and you mentioned that you lost a lot of your own sponsorship through that very type of class or classification of questioning what type of person you are. Tell us a little bit about that.
I've lost a lot of sponsorship. I had to give up my car and obviously my place, which was a big tip for me. Lots of the sports teams that I've still made, people wanted to send me for a gender test, because I was still making teams after athletics. After, it seems to me that whichever sport code that I attack, I get into a jersey or in a tracksuit, so people wanted to send me for gender tests. So it was a bit of a problem at the beginning, but I'm feeling so much better now. But just sponsorship-wise, that we've lost, gave majority of the athletes no choice but to go and look for jobs, as it was a job for us.
And one could say a lot of these companies that sponsors very hypocritical. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were the best of the best. Yeah. You, I think you mentioned earlier that you won all of your, what was the word that you used, all-round type of thing. You won all categories. Yeah. You won in all your categories. And it's a bit unfair. It doesn't matter what you are, who you are, or even what you perceive yourself to be, that shouldn't be a factor in it. Tell us how you felt about this, and do you think that it was a bit unfair?
I think it was a bit unfair, because we have lost a lot of money, but then again we have to respect the sponsors, because no sponsor wants to be linked to any negative publicity. And this is actually where we have to blame the management as well for mismanaging finance, because they know in order to keep a sponsor, you need to uplift them, and you need to keep them updated with everything that goes on in the federation or what goes on. You can't just bring in athletes, not send them for gender tests, or not do the right things and just let them go and compete. There is a lot of structures and things that you need to go through when it comes to IAAF.
Janice, do you think that in terms of the management structure, and you've been around, like you said, from 14 years old, you came from the old system, from the, if one can call it that, the apartheid system. Yeah. Do you feel that our new management lacked that feeling towards the athletes,
Yeah.
and it was more about themselves. I'm just asking, it's not necessarily true or whatever, but I'm just asking, do you think that when the changeover happened, the focus was more on management than the people doing the sport or doing the job, as it were? Do you think that that happened, or am I just jumping the gun here?
No, it's true because the focus was on the management because they are the ones that's supposed to protect the athletes and they're supposed to protect the sponsors. So, our job is just to go out there and compete. We're not supposed to be involved with the technical things. So that is not our job. We need to focus on keeping the sponsors happy so that the sponsors can see magnificent, electrifying performances on the track, and that should come from management.
And not only that, if I can think that sponsorship shouldn't actually even be the only money that you get. It from government side, we had stuff like the sports ministry, where they would have come in and said, Janice is good in each sport that you came first. She represented South Africa. Let's give her a salary, or let's sort her out because this is her work. So in terms of government, I think they also failed you in a sense. And look, I'm not laying blame there, but I'm just saying if they were if they looked forward to the future and the brilliant athlete that you were, and the fact that you represented South Africa in so many sports areas, they should have come to the party, I feel. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think it is wise to say that because I think it's also unfair because the guys, when we are done with athletics, we never get taken care of. We just get dropped like that, and I mean, you bust yourself and sweat yourself out, bled for this country, but not a fat check or saying, okay, we can open so much doors for you. They don't, after you're done, you could have been South Africa's #1, whatever. They don't really pick up their phones, they don't care. So we really left at a time where they fired the president, the whole crew that was with him got fired. So people was more pissed off rather than sincere towards the athletes that were still on board at that time. So it would have been nice to have gotten something from the government of the athletics. I don't think there was anyone that really fought hard enough for the athletes because everyone started, became a racial thing because the blacks were starting to fight with the colours and the colours, were starting to fight with the whites, rather than everyone becoming one unit and fight for the athletes. So that never happened.
Lovely. I really respect what you did, and really I think you need to be recognized for the role that you played in sport. And what I'd like to see going forward is that you actually, from government side or anybody that's listening or that's on the unsung heroes that are involved with sport, is actually to try and get you back into a coaching role, where you can actually coach the youngsters. I mean, you've got so much experience in what's happening overseas with management, with all these things. And I think really, if there's anybody out there at the moment, you are sort of, I think you're involved with the 7 teams rugby, but if there's anybody that needs a coach, for instance, that they can actually use you to uplift, like you said, the whole of South African communities, and be that black, white, brown, doesn't matter. It is the coaching of South African athletes. And I think you've got a lot of experience, and you've been around the world, you know how the systems work. I think you are really need to be out there. And like I said, if any of my viewers want to get into contact with you, how do they get into contact with you? Is there maybe a phone number or an email number that you can give them?
There's Facebook. They can get me on Facebook under Janice Josephs. A lot of people can inbox me. I can give my contact details. But I think it'd be safe for people to go into my my Facebook page, and then they can inbox me. I think it'd be more privacy rather than my.
All right. Something that I just want to mention as well. If you want to know a little bit more about Janice and her achievements, just go onto Google, type in Janet Josephs, and you can actually see all the achievements. And I mean, she's only 38. She's still a young lady, but she has achieved so much over the time period that she was involved in sport. I'd like to get her, or not I mean, I don't want to say but I would like to see her even in government, in the sports ministry, where she can play a role there and advise and give guidance and leadership to the ministers that's involved with sport. Janice, thank you very much for being on the show. I know it was a short notice, and my voice is probably so loud because I'm holding the phone in my hand recording you. The last thing I just want to do, you showed me some tattoos that you had of your achievements on your body. If we can just sort of zoom in on that quickly. I'd just like to show, just give a little bit of a brief of what that means to you.
This tattoo I placed there because I've made all the Springbok teams from World Youth to the Olympic Games. And then this was obviously my first Olympics in 2004. So I went to Greece after I was done with the competition, and I went to go and get this tattooed out. Sorry about the dust.
No, it's no problem. There's no problem at all. Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much. And you still, your body, your features are so athletic. I think you really are designed and meant to be in athletics. Thank you so much for having us, for having you and presenting yourself on this interview. Thanks.